Today marks 1 year since the Taliban invaded the presidential palace in Kabul and secured the grip on Afghanistan.
A new report from House Republicans calling out the Biden administration's abrupt pullout of U.S. troops from leaving the country, leaving countless Americans and allies behind to figure out their own way out.
How can we forget? Trey Yingst is live in Kabul, Afghanistan with the latest. Trey?
Brian Ainsley, Steve, good morning. Remarkable scenes right now in the capital of Kabul. We just saw a line of pickup trucks go by with Taliban fighters on the back, guns in hand, celebrating the 1 year anniversary of their takeover of Afghanistan. It comes as this GOP report indicates the Biden administration waited until the last minute to make decisions about the evacuation from Kabul's international airport last August. We got to look this week at the suffering that the Afghan people are now facing under Taliban control. Take a look. 11-month-old Robani struggles to breathe as his mother looks on. The young Afghan is one of more than 1 million children under 5 who are acutely malnourished in the Taliban-controlled country. It makes me very sad when I see him in this condition, 35-year-old Fatima explains. I have lost 3 other children. This is the 4th one. A year into Taliban rule, Afghanistan's economy has collapsed. The United Nations now estimates 97% of Afghans are at risk of falling below the poverty line. The Taliban's controversial and archaic governing style has increased international isolation, putting at risk billions of dollars worth of aid that acts as a humanitarian lifeline for this country. A strict interpretation of Islam is guiding life under Taliban control, making it impossible for a separation between mosque and state. Right now in Afghanistan, listening to music is outlawed. Women must be covered when in public, and the majority of teenage girls are banned from participating in secondary education. The Taliban claims this is equality.
Are women free in Afghanistan? Of course. Women can't go out in public alone at night. They can't serve in senior government roles. They have to be covered when they go into the streets of Kabul. How can you describe this as free?
The laws of the country regulate how people conduct themselves when in the public. That does not in any shape, way, or form mean that someone is free or is not free.
An American official tells Fox News that the State Department will deliver a report to the White House in the next few days detailing what went wrong with that evacuation last summer and how so many U.S. allies were left behind. Brian, Ainsley, Steve.
Hey Trey, describe for us, you were there during every day of the chaos. Describe what you're seeing a year later. I mean, is it just an impoverished country living under autocratic rule?
That's exactly it. There is a sense of normalcy on the surface. You see street vendors giving out food and trying to make some sales, but most people can't afford that food. The Taliban patrols the streets like a police force, but behind that there is fear and anxiety for the Afghan people. We spoke with a female activist last night, and she staged a demonstration over the weekend, and the Taliban broke up this protest, firing weapons into the air and beating these women in the streets of Kabul. They are not free, despite what that Taliban official told Fox News, and it is only getting worse as the days go on.
Yeah, his definition of freedom doesn't really make sense. But Trey, that woman, that breaks our heart when we see that woman. She's already lost 3 children. This will be her 4th. What is the problem? They can't afford food. They can't afford medical care.
They can't afford food, they can't afford medical care, and so many of those young mothers that we met had lost other children to malnutrition in Afghanistan. Many people are coming from more rural provinces of the country to the capital of Kabul trying to get any sort of medical care they can receive. But what we see happening here in Kabul is only the tip of the iceberg. We're getting really a view of the Taliban that has been sterilized for the international community. When you go to more rural parts of Afghanistan, the beating of women, the oppression that these women are facing is even worse. And again, this issue with education. We also spoke to that Taliban official pressing him on why young women cannot get secondary education in this country. And rather than just admitting that this is based on the Islamic law, the strict interpretation of the Quran that the Taliban has, he said they don't have enough pencils and teachers.
Oh, man.
And so, again, they're trying to sterilize what the control looks like here in Afghanistan. But we do know, according to reports in the more rural parts of this country, it's even worse.
Sure. And Trey, you know, a year ago when we pulled out and 13 brave American servicemen members killed in that suicide attack at the airport, and then we pulled out completely, and there were still hundreds of U.S. citizens, thousands of green card holders there. We've heard from the administration that apparently a number of them have come back. But at the time, we were talking about how there were tens of thousands of Afghanis who helped us as translators and with logistics, and they would be left behind to deal with their Taliban overlords. It's been a year later. What has life been like for the people who helped the United States but who are still there with the Taliban now firmly in control?
Those people are terrified. We talked to a man yesterday who worked every day in the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. He was a senior official in the embassy, an Afghan official who worked with the United States on finance issues. And he was sent around the world helping the United States. He even was in Washington, D.C., working in the Ronald Reagan building. He told us he's an Afghan, came back here with his family, and was assisting the United States for years. He started out as a translator and then worked his way up to help the Americans. And he was left behind. And he lived for months in a safe house with his family. And he said he's still trying to get approval from the State Department, but they're not responding anymore. And I asked him if his view about the Americans changed. And he told me the American people are great people. He had no problem with American civilians, but he was frustrated with President Biden. He said that he served the United States for so long and he had U.S. interests in mind. And now he's being ignored and forgotten about. And hold on one second. I want to just go to the street here. I want to pan down here. You can see this Taliban parade taking place right now.
We can hear it.
These flags in the streets of Kabul. You can hear it behind me. And it is just another reminder that these Taliban officials and these Taliban fighters are in control of Kabul. And they are calling the shots here. And for the civilians who were left behind, those who helped the Americans, they are left fending for their lives. Many of them are living underground, terrified about what will happen to them and their families if they are found out to have helped the Americans during those 20 years of war.
Right, and just to remind the folks that Taliban's in charge, they have the parades through town with the music and the flags. Perfect timing. Trey, thank you very much.
They're allowed to play music, but other people aren't. All right, thank you so much, Trey. Be careful.